You're watching Man Coverage with Nate Schmidt and James Bonneville on National Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everyone. It is December 29th, 2024, college football show, Man Coverage, Knoxville Nate Digital, James Bonneville. We are talking bowl season. We are talking the 2024 season coming to a close. Whew! A lot of football been going on, buddy. A lot of football. Some good, some bad. Lots to talk about it, James. How's your bowl season, buddy?
Confusing. I mean, when you have to start, I mean, name me a time of the year where you care about, two Big 12 teams playing for a bowl game in San Antonio, or, a MAC team versus an ACC team playing in Detroit. I mean, if this was September, would we give a crap? Would we be talking about it? Probably not.
Probably not. It's interesting. I was like, what do you mean the two teams are playing each other from the same conference? But here you go. Here they go.
Even Ralphie doesn't want to be there.
Ralphie is like, why are we playing a team in our own conference? And he's like, wait, BYU's way better than us. Oh, this isn't going to go well. It's so funny how they act like they're like controlling him, but no. Yeah. Ralphie's controlling you guys, and he doesn't want to be there. The whole team is running out, and Ralphie is going to the gate.
He's heading to Colorado. He's probably already back in Boulder already.
He's like, he didn't want any part of that. And, let's talk about this game a little bit because, BYU started off really hot. They were, in the talk of being, potentially in the national championship playoff. I believe they started 9-0. Does that sound right? No.
Yeah.
Yeah, 9-0. And we were, thinking they were probably a little bit overrated. And then they lost a couple of close games. And then we were like, they're pretenders. And when I saw this matchup, I was like, BYU is going to kick the crap out of them. But then I started watching it, and I'm like, man, they're making mistakes. They were up. I told you, when I was watching it, I was like, they're up, 17-0, but they should be up by 30 because they, had several chances to score there where they threw 3 interceptions in the red zone. They kicked a field goal when a guy had dropped a surefire touchdown on a, trick play. 36-14 does not tell this tale of this game. Colorado scored a touchdown with like no time left to make it, get them to 14 points. And really this was a blowout. I don't really know how to rate the job that Dion did, to be honest with you, because was Colorado better this year than they were last year? Oh yeah, they were better. But how good is this team really? I think you saw last night how good this team is or how good this team isn't by what they, what happened against BYU, James. What did you think about Colorado's season as a whole, and what did you think about them getting their ass kicked last night?
It didn't shock me. BYU is the more physical team. Let's be honest. If you've watched any BYU football since Kalani Sitake or Brocco Mendenhall, they're physical. They're a very, very, very physical team at the line of scrimmage. And if you don't come to play, they're going to F you up. And, man, I mean, there was a point where BYU had more plays inside Colorado territory than Colorado had plays on offense. I mean, this wasn't even remotely close. Like saying 30, calling this game 36-14 or 36-14 close. It felt like a 55-7 game, in my opinion.
Yeah, me too.
Play, does Colorado score?
Yeah, I mean, Travis Hunter was really their only, option on offense. And, he wasn't even that great. I mean, he had a couple of plays where he was able to, get loose. But they couldn't run the football, Colorado, that is.
Yeah.
They were just incapable of running it. And so everyone knew they were going to throw it. And then you saw that their offensive line is still not good. I know they got the young left tackle who started the entire season, Seaton.
Yeah, freshman All-American too. Yeah,
yeah. He's all right, but he got abused last night, bro.
Well, I mean, honestly, it's when you put a freshman at left tackle, it's going to happen. I don't care if they're freaking the best left tackle of all time coming out of high school. You're still 18 years old. I mean, it's a very hard position to play from going from high school to college. And I mean, is their offensive line better than last year? I mean, even Helen Keller would say yes. But could the bar be any lower last year? Their offensive line was a disaster last year.
That's true. And I just watched, Tyler Batty, number 92 for BYU, just dominate him all game. I mean, you're talking about a fifth-year senior who's an all-conference player, knows all the tricks of the trade, and he was just, putting him on his back and running around him all day long. I will give Shedeur Sanders some credit. This kid could have sat this game out.
Yeah, he could have.
Hunter as well could have sat this game out, and nobody would have really thought anything of it. I wouldn't have been surprised if either of them did it. So I will give them both some credit for playing. My question was, what the hell were they doing in the game when it was 33-7, and you still had Shedeur Sanders getting his ass kicked?
Yeah,
run around. I'm like, what are you doing? I mean, I as I said, I applaud them for playing in this game and for showing up and for competing, all that stuff. But I didn't understand why he had Shedeur Sanders in the game when it was 33-7. And it was fourth quarter. The game was over. I just, I worry about him getting hurt. That didn't make any sense to me. Jake Retzloff, the quarterback for BYU, he gets some credit sometimes that I don't think he deserves. He threw 0 touchdowns last night. He threw 2 interceptions. He actually threw 3. One was called back because of an offsides penalty. Another one could have been picked off, but it was dropped. The passing game was rough. And really the only reason they won this game was because LJ Martin had 17 carries for 93 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he also was their leading receiver with 2 catches for 33 yards. But as you mentioned, they dominated the line of scrimmage. They were able to run the ball. Retzloff, however you pronounce his name, actually ran the ball pretty well. He was sacked a couple of times, so his yardage didn't look great, but he did have a couple of nice pickups on third down. But BYU has a lot coming back. And so I think BYU, I mean, obviously their coach is really good. They have a lot of solid players coming back. I love their linebacker core, Glasker, Taggart, Jack Kelly. All 3 of those guys are solid, and they will all be back next year. Colorado, to me, is kind of a question mark. They've got 2 quarterbacks coming in, the Juju, the freshman, and then they've got Caden Salter, who was originally here at Tennessee, transferred to Liberty, had a pretty good career at Liberty. He's going to be going to Colorado as well, but obviously they're losing a lot. What do you think about these 2 teams going forward next year, James? Do you think Prime's going to be back? It sure sounds like he thinks he's coming back to Colorado. What do you think? Is he coming back? Does he go to the NFL with his son? What does this program look like next year?
If you're a head coach, would you want to bring your quarterback's dad on your staff?
No.
I mean, this has got disaster written all over it. I mean, honestly, after watching yesterday's games, if I were a GM and if I'm the New York Giants, if they're the number 1 pick, I would seriously consider Cam Ward over Shedeur Sanders. I personally would. There's just something about Cam Ward's game. Up until sitting out the second half, he just seems like he's one of those kids that it's just a gamer. He's just a freaking gamer. The guy came up the hard way, where Sanders has had everything kind of given to him throughout the entire process. Everything's been set up to showcase Shedeur Sanders. Personally, that's what I would do, but I think this quarterback draft is, compared to last year's, is a step down.
Not good. No, I don't really like any of these guys. As I told you last night, do I like Cam Ward more than Sanders? I do. Would I draft Cam Ward to be my franchise quarterback? No, I wouldn't. And that's nothing against him. It's just several times. I mean, ACC's garbage. We're going to talk more about that later. But the ACC conference is just trash. Did he throw a lot of touchdowns? Yeah, he did. Do I give him a ton of credit for it? For being in the ACC? Not so much. And you want to know what my issues are with Deion Sanders? I'll show you right now what my issues are with Deion. That would be Deion's son here doing a dance when they are down 33-7.
Yeah.
And Shiloh is out there dancing. That to me, that's a problem. I mean, you're down by 30 points and your son's out there doing the Michael Jackson. That's where my issues with Deion come in. But as I said, I do think he did a good job. The team is definitely better than it was last year. But I think if he gets an offer to go somewhere, I think he would bolt in a second. I just don't think he's gotten an offer anywhere as of yet.
Honestly, I look at every head coaching job. Did you leave the job? Is the job better than when you came?
Right.
I mean, is it better? Well, I mean, it couldn't be any worse.
It could not be worse. They were 1-11. I mean, it could not have been worse.
But if he leaves, it goes right back to where it was.
Correct. That was my issue with hiring him.
Yeah. Honestly, I mean, somebody's going to want the job, obviously. It's not like they're not going to be able to find a head coach. But that's just a weird – I think he's got to stay. I mean, where else is he going to go? Florida State? Florida State ain't going to pay $75 million to get rid of Norvell, and I don't think they want him.
No, they didn't want him last time. They certainly don't want him now. So I think he's going to be there just because that's the only place. That's only where he has to go is back there. So I think he's back there next year. I think it'll probably look a lot like it does this year. I think it'll be pretty close to the same thing.
I think it's a step back without Hunter, though. I mean, Hunter's a gamer.
I understand. I'm just saying I think the team will be about the same level. I think they'll be about a, maybe an 8-9 win team. If things go their way, they'll win 8 games, be 8-4. Just depends what the quarterback position looks like. Depends who, the transfers they have coming in. Some of them are pretty solid, to be honest with you. So I think they're going to get some upgrades at some of the positions. I think their lines will be a little bit better. They've got a good recruiting class. So I think that'll look good. But we already talked about this a little bit, and I want to talk about it some more. That is the Miami game. Buddy, I've got a lot there's a lot to unpack here with this Iowa State Miami game. Cam Ward starts the game. My thing is, if you start the game and you're healthy enough and you're into it enough where you want to play in the bowl game, then you play the damn bowl game. I don't understand this playing the bowl game, getting a record by getting statistics, and then at halftime sitting out and watching your team get beat. James, let's talk about this first. What did you think about Cam Ward playing the first half to get statistical awards and set records, but then sitting out the second half and watching his team get beat?
From a team perspective, especially watching Miami on the sidelines yesterday.
You mean fist fighting on the sideline?
I always thought that Mario Cristobal was a really good culture guy. And after watching what I saw yesterday, they're a mess. They're bigger mess than I ever thought they were. And I think next year without Cam Ward, I mean, what are they going to do? I mean,
they would have won. I believe they would have won about 5 games this year, maybe, if they did not have Cam Ward. Getting him at the 11th hour was the luckiest thing. I mean, I know they bought him, so it wasn't really luck. It was money. But getting Cam Ward was just huge for them, because they would have they would have been horrible this year without a
100%.
Without Cam Ward at quarterback. What do you think? 5 wins, maybe?
5. Well, it's the ACC, so I'll
maybe
give it
6.
7. Yeah. I mean, but it wouldn't have been much better. I mean, they're not that. I mean, Cam Ward's special. Damian Martinez really good. But what else do they really have? I mean, it's just, they should be better. They got 4 and 5 stars galore, but they're not coaching them up.
No.
Like, where did, I mean, I don't understand what's going on with Cristobal at his alma mater of all places.
It was bad. And, I'm still trying to figure out how you let the quarterback sit out the second half, and then you let the players fight on the sideline. That's just not a good look for your program. And
that whole bowl game is just a debacle. I mean, I'm sorry. You're eating the mascot of the MVP gets to eat the mascot of the bowl game. There's sprinkles on the sidelines. I mean, they had a memorial for the frosted strawberry Pop-Tart. I mean, it seemed like the game was a sideshow, and it was more of a freaking commercial for freaking Pop-Tarts. What the hell have we turned into?
I don't know, but in case anyone missed it, this right here is what's going on the sidelines of the game. While the game is still going on, these guys are involved in a 1-point football game, and they're on the sidelines punching each other in the face. I don't know, man. Talk about the Pop-Tart Bowl. I think these guys ate too many Pop-Tarts before the game started.
The whole thing was I mean, what's sad is we're not even talking about the team who won the game.
No, we are not. And we should give, Coach Campbell and Iowa State some credit, because really they had a phenomenal season. They won 11 games, James. When's the last time Iowa State won 11 games?
I could tell you this. Never.
Yeah, that's my point.
Jesus Christ was walking the earth sooner than the last time Iowa State won 11 games. Hell, since they won 10 games.
Yeah, and everyone talks about Miami scoring 41. Well, Iowa State scored 42. This isn't a team that usually think about throwing points up on the board, and they scored, 42 points. Rocco had a pretty solid game, honestly. 3 touchdowns, no picks. They ran the ball fairly well, put up 145 on the ground, 270 through the air. Kudos to Matt Campbell and Iowa State. Does this put Matt Campbell back in the conversation of a coach that lots of people want to hire away again, or no?
I never thought he left. I think what he's doing at Iowa State is just north of a miracle, because when you fly kids in to go to Ames, there is no airport in Ames. You got to fly into Des Moines and drive the kid up 45 minutes to Ames. I mean, call me crazy. and you're not even the best team in your state. The bellwether team is Iowa. So you're getting your second-tier kids from your home state. What Matt Campbell's doing is amazing. Carson Hansen, the product out of Lakeville South. What a great game he had running the ball. And he's, 19?
Yeah.
I mean, the sky is only going north for them. If he keeps staying there, we got to put Iowa State back in the picture of winning going after Big 12 titles again on a regular basis.
We do, and this, as we are going to discuss, in another show, there was nobody who was telling me that that Iowa State was going to win 11 games before this season. I mean, it just wasn't going to happen, and they really, really stepped up to the plate. Had some ups and downs through this year, honestly. But to finish up with 11 wins and win the Pop-Tart Bowl, it sounds stupid to even say that, but seriously, that was a huge victory for the Cyclones, and Matt Campbell deserves a lot of credit. This is what I like about Matt Campbell, and this is why I might why I would hire him. He stayed at Iowa State. This guy, James, has definitely had opportunities to leave Ames, Iowa, as you just discussed, how shitty of a city that is. He's had multiple opportunities to pack his shit up and get out of there.
He was offered the job with the Detroit Lions. I had a Dan Campbell.
Yeah.
I mean, too often people think of recency bias, but he's not. Iowa State isn't Tuscaloosa.
No.
Hell, it ain't Athens. It ain't Columbus. It ain't Ann Arbor. It's Ames. And if you could win at Ames, you can win games. Hell, Earl Bruce came from freaking Iowa State.
That's a true story, and I just it's a hard place to win, and that's why they've sucked for 100 years until Matt Campbell got there. I mean, I remember what was the running back's name? Troy.
Oh, the Davis boys. Troy Davis. Yeah.
Troy Davis. Thank you. He was legitimate, and they had a couple of decent seasons with him, but I'm talking about in my entire lifetime, that was about it. And, him coming in there and just changing the culture around, that's pretty amazing. And I want to give him his props, but I also want to give everyone the opportunity to go and get tickets to your favorite bowl game. Get out there, go to SeatGeek.com, enter promo code NSS, and pick up $20 off your next purchase.
Football season is here, and SeatGeek is my go-to for buying tickets. Now with SeatGeek, every single ticket is backed with their buyer guarantee. We've all had plans change, and when you can't make it to the big game, SeatGeek has you covered. They're the only ticketer that allows you to return your tickets ahead of the event for credit with SeatGeek swaps. So when things come up, I know that my tickets won't go to waste. So what are you waiting for? Download the SeatGeek app to maximize your possibilities and shop live events with confidence.
Okay, thank you, SeatGeek.com. As I said, go to SeatGeek.com, enter in promo code NSS, and get $20 off your next purchase. So, moving on, let's talk a little more about the matchups in these bowl games. Was it last night or the night before? I can't even remember, but I think it was the night before. They all blend
together in my head.
Yeah, USC took on whenever the hell it was. USC took on Texas A&M. This was a game me and you both pointed at and thought, 6-6 team versus an 8-4 team. That seems like, kind of a not a good matchup. But really, there's games where teams are 9-3 playing 6-6 teams. So who cares? And this was actually a good football game. USC was able to come out on top, 35-31. The offense looked better than really it had since week 1 when they played LSU. And, obviously there was a lot of different people on the field for USC, as me and you talked about. A lot of the USC guys had already hit the portal. Zachariah Branch, his brother. Miller Moss, the quarterback who started most of the season, he's out. Several of the guys on defense. So I like the fact that, Coach Riley got the guys that were still here to focus on this game, and not only focus on it, play well enough to win it and beat a decent A&M team. Does this victory give Lincoln at least one more year? And what did you think about him being able to pull this off, missing several players?
Honestly, I went into this bowl game. I looked at the points. I didn't need the points. I was taking USC to win this game going in. We talked about this before. I go back to the LSU USC game in the exact same stadium to begin the year.
Yeah.
And I watched that game and I'm like, every Big Ten team is going to keep everything USC does underneath them. And they're going to force them to go 10, 12 play drives and watch them make mistakes. And I knew A&M was not going to do that. A&M literally tried to play the exact same game plan as LSU did. And look what happened. And it wasn't against their starters. It was their backups. 21 points in the fourth quarter. Jacoby Lane, great catch at the end of the game. Victory USC. Fight on.
Yeah, Jacoby Lane had a hell of a game. 7 catches, 127, 3 touchdowns. I mean, this kid is only a sophomore. He's 6'4", 200 pounds.
Yeah.
I like him a lot. And
I
think that if they can build off of this and, get some things going, I think maybe they'll be heading the right direction. USC had a tough schedule this year.
Before the year, I thought they weren't going to make a bowl game.
Yeah.
I mean, this was not an easy schedule for them. I thought they outperformed their schedule. I mean, they still have the same problems where they're not strong on the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, and it shows. I mean, specialty players, they got them. I mean, probably top 3 in the country, wouldn't you say, for receiving cores?
Yeah, top 3, top 5,
yeah,
for sure.
I mean, I wouldn't put them ahead of Ohio State for sure, but
no.
I mean, there's a lot of places that would sure love to have, the backups at USC on their roster, i.e. Georgia.
Yeah, Georgia's probably a really good one. There's no doubt he would love to get some of these guys and put them outside, especially this season due to the lack of playmakers they've got going on. But a good win for USC and A&M. Here we are, $77 million later. And as I mentioned, it's the same record. I mean, I don't understand, why did you dump Jimbo Fisher, pay him $77 million to go away, hire a new guy who you had to then pay his buyout at Duke, give him a new salary, and you're the same team? I mean, I just
see. I think they're a little bit better. I like Marcel Reese at quarterback. I think he provides that extra dimension that they need. It's not like I don't like Connor Wegman. It's just he provides more abilities that they have. I mean, hell, remember when we used to talk about Devin Achane at A&M?
Yeah.
And I mean, we the talent was there. He just couldn't show it because they were so playing 1980s football. And he goes to the NFL. What's he do? Puts up freaking video game numbers.
Yeah, it's true. I'm just saying at the end of the year, we're talking about the same record.
Yeah, record.
I mean, I don't understand paying $100 million to obtain the same results. I mean, to me, that's insane. Why not just keep Jimbo Fisher if you're going to go 8-5 again? I mean, I don't get it. What are you paying $100 million for? I mean, maybe they'll be better next year. I have no idea, but I didn't see anything from this season that leads me to believe that A&M is going to win the SEC next year. Did you?
No.
Okay, that's my point.
Not even close.
Okay, good. That's my point.
I mean, honestly, it comes down to culture.
Yeah.
I think they've got a culture problem, and it's more than just the team. It's the fans. I mean, this belief that you just freaking spend a bunch of money and roll a football out in the field and they're going to win games. If you don't win the locker room, you're not going to win the field.
Right. And you've got to have guys that want to be at your program and care about the program, not because they got $1 million. I mean, you pay somebody $100,000, $200,000. Yeah, they're going to come because that's life-changing money for them. But does that make them love the program and love being an Aggie? No, it gives them a year to be there and be involved in your program. And you can tell that it's just not the same when you look at their guys and other guys, and they have the same amount of talent. They just can't win. And I just see that problem carrying over.
Honestly, I think a lot of people, all they see is the product on the field for 13 Saturdays a year. If they make a bowl game, a championship game, could be more, could be slightly less, whatever. But there are 365 days in a year, and they could love playing games, but they still got to live there. And if they don't feel like they like living there, that feels like a prison sentence. And I don't care if you're making $10 million a year. I mean, that's a long freaking time to really, trudge through stuff. It's more that you got to love where you're at. If you don't, it's going to suck no matter how much money you're making.
There's no doubt. There is no doubt. And, I want to talk about another. I want to mix up the schedule just a little bit here because I want to get into this Armed Forces Bowl. The Navy midshipmen versus the Oklahoma Sooners. Talk about the tale of two teams here. Navy hangs on. They score 21 unanswered points, take the lead. Oklahoma actually puts together a nice drive, comes down, scores, makes it 21-20. They go for two. First off, James, what did you think about that call to go for two? I mean, you're 6-6. It's like, who really gives a shit? But I just felt like kicking the extra point, Oklahoma has to have the advantage going into overtime playing a Navy team. What did you think about the decision to go for two by Brent Venables?
I'm starting to wonder now why. I understand now why it took Brent Venables so long to get a head coaching job. Because, I mean, remember for years back during when he was DC at Stoops?
Yeah.
I mean, he was the name. Like, literally, he and Bud Foster were like the DC names out there. And every time you hear him up for a job, up for a job, up for a job. And he was Miss Congeniality over and over again. And now I get it. Like, I really get it. What is going on at Oklahoma? It's like Lincoln Riley had this program running way better than this. I mean, it just looks like it's falling off the freaking rails. Yeah, they beat Alabama at home. Way to go.
And that to me just shows me right there, though, that's a problem when you actually have the talent to beat Alabama, but then you can only win 6 games all year. That's a problem right there. That doesn't give me hope. That gives me more questions as to why you couldn't win any more games. Correct. I mean, how you ran for 300 yards against the Alabama Crimson Tide, but you can only win 6 games all season.
Correct.
That's an issue. And, I do want to give credit to the Navy midshipman, Blake Horvath.
He is such an underrated quarterback. It's not even funny. Like, that kid is a gamer.
He's a winner. He's a gamer. He runs it. He throws it. He had 92 yards passing. He had 155 yards and 2 touchdowns rushing. This guy is Navy offense. And I, in my opinion, this was a huge win for Navy. 10-win season, finished 10-3. They beat Army, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, they beat Army.
Yeah.
I was like, they beat the crap out of Army too. And then I was like, wait, am I freaking out? Yeah, they beat Army. They beat Oklahoma, an SEC team where it just means more, James.
Yep. It just means more.
It didn't look like it meant more to me. And I understand why he went for 2, but in the grand scheme of things, when you're 6-6 and you're playing a bowl game and you have the opportunity to tie the game and go into overtime and potentially get a victory, I kick the point. and I take my chances with my SEC roster against the triple option.
Honestly, I hate going up against triple option teams because they're always going to chop block. Your front line is just, your offensive line is just going to, and defensive line is just going to get beat up. And you got to get up on them quick, put your knee to their throat, and make them a throwing team. And what did Oklahoma do? Played with its food. Navy stuck around, gave them hope. And guess what? They stuck it to them.
Yeah. And a great coaching job this year at Navy, and 10 victories. I mean, hell, I don't know what else you want from these kids. And a great way to win that game, scoring 21 points in a row until obviously that last touchdown by Oklahoma.
When they fired Ken Niumatalolo at Navy, I thought that was a crime.
I did too.
What he did, I'm starting to realize maybe it was the right move. I mean,
yeah,
honestly,
I mean, it was sometimes, a program needs a change of face. They need a new voice. But at the time, I agree with you. I was kind of like, what are you doing? This guy has won consistently here. He has one bad season. They lose to Army and you fire his ass in the locker room. Yeah. I didn't think that was cool at all. But, look at Ken. He's gone to San Jose State. He's taken them to a couple of bowl games in a row. He's proven that he is still a good coach. I mean, you can win at San Jose State. You can win anywhere. I think he's in line to get a job somewhere. And if I was looking for somebody to coach my football team, I would call him and potentially bring him in at least for an interview. But I agree with you. It does look good. It looks like a good move. Now you win 10 games. You beat an SEC team in a bowl game. Beat Army. I mean, that's what they want to do there, right?
Yeah.
Win 10 games, beat Army, go to a good bowl game, beat an SEC team in the bowl game. What the hell else do you want from these guys? Run the option. I think that's pretty good. Let's talk about one more game here. 6 overtimes. The 8-5 Toledo Rockets out of the MAC versus the Big 12. Big 12 Pitt?
No. Right? ACC.
Why did I think that? No, I'm thinking of West Virginia. Yeah. Pitt. The ACC. Pittsburgh Panthers 7-6. 48-46 is your final. Kind of a thriller in this 6 overtime game. Tucker Gleason runs and passes for 5 overtime scores. What did you think about the Rockets taking down Pittsburgh in this one and getting a big win for their program?
No one talks about Jason Candle. I mean, once again, a product of Matt Campbell. I mean, you look at how many people have come through Toledo who have gone on to major head coaching jobs. I mean, we talk about Miami of Ohio being the cradle of coaches. What about Toledo? You've had Don James, Nick Saban, Matt Campbell, Jason Candle, and I know I'm forgetting people. This is a program in the MAC that consistently does well. I mean, it's not like the MAC of old where, you're expecting a MAC team to come out and be they could play in a Power 5 conference and be legit. With the portal, it's just not going to be that way. But man, Pitt had better talent on the field, and Toledo just outplayed them. Toledo's speed on the outside was impressive, was really impressive. Like that Vanderos kid at receiver, man, you give that kid some space, he is going to torch you.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a big win. I think people sometimes forget about MAC football, but there's kids there that are solid football players. As you mentioned, a lot of them are going to take the money and run. And head elsewhere if they have a good season. And that's the issue there is, can you have, sustained success with all the ins and outs? But it's possible. I mean, hell, if you can bring 13 guys from James Madison to Indiana and win 10, 11 games, certainly, you can win some games at Toledo. But I did like that victory. I want to talk too about another coach who's obviously, we talk about Lincoln Riley and the status of the program at USC. I want to talk about another guy who's making a butt ton of money to go 7-6. And that, of course, is your boy, Matt Rule at Nebraska. First off, I got a question. Do you think that Dylan Raiola really believes that he's Pat Mahomes' son, or he just wants people to think that he's Pat Mahomes' son? I don't know, but when you run around the field and you do the Pat Mahomes, I'm so confused. You wear the number, you have the exact same hair. I don't know if Pat has any tattoos, but I'm sure if he does, Dylan has them as well. I'm so confused by this kid, but
how far things have fallen in Lincoln.
Yeah, I mean, when you're acting like you won the Super Bowl, when you win 7 games,
you won the Pinstripe Bowl. You won the Pinstripe Bowl. I mean, a game where honestly they should have won by more.
Yes. The only reason BC was even in this game was because they blocked like 3 kicks. And Nebraska, once again, they fire Scott Frost because he loses all these close, 1-score games and pay his buyout and then bring in Matt Rule and pay him a ton of money. And here we are again. I guess they won this one, but still they're 7-6. What do you think about the job Matt Rule has done so far? This was year 2? Year 2. And, here we are winning 7 games by beating BC in a bowl game. I mean, here's your wins this year. They beat UTEP. They beat Colorado. They beat Northern Iowa. They beat Purdue, the worst team in the Big Ten. They beat Rutgers.
Not even there anymore. Yeah.
They beat Rutgers, and they beat Wisconsin. I don't know. Where's your signature win? What has he done to better this program thus far, James?
What would be their signature win on that schedule? Like Colorado?
Colorado is definitely their best win.
I mean, or Rutgers. I mean, Rutgers is a good team, but without that running back, I mean, they're schizophrenic on their passing attack. Are they better? No. I mean, shit, they got beat 56-7 to Indiana. I mean, probably the best game they played all year is when they lost to Ohio State at Ohio State 21-17.
Yeah, that was their best game all year, and they played really well. This was coming off of the game against Indiana when they had just gotten their butts kicked in.
Yeah.
And they showed up in Columbus at 12 noon and played their asses off. So I will give them credit for that. That was by far their best game all year. But once again, they still found a way to lose. And, Dylan Raiola, what do you think of this kid? This kid was supposed to be the best player in the country. I'm not seeing it.
I'm not either. Well, I mean, here's the part that scares me right now is this is a kid over his 4 years in high school, went to 4 different high schools.
Right.
And then committed to 3 different schools before he finally ended up in Nebraska on signing day.
Yeah, he was committed to Ohio State for over a year. Then he commits to Georgia, and then at the last minute takes a big stack of cash and goes to Nebraska. I truly believe he would jet from Nebraska if anybody wanted him.
Well, the only thing that's giving me pause there was his dad was a 4-year starter there.
I get it, but do you think he really gives a shit about that? I mean, I don't think he does.
I mean, personally, granted, I know nothing, but something tells me he's going to end up at the Miami next year. Call me crazy. Now, will he be at he's not going to spend 4 years in Nebraska. He's just not. It's just how this kid is.
Yeah,
it's
I agree.
All about what's he want next. I mean, he went to 4 different high schools in 3 different states. I mean, what in the world is going on when you're transferring that freaking much?
That's not a positive sign. At all. No. I feel bad for him, honestly, because, I mean, how do you make friends when you're at a different high school every 6 months? I mean, how do you have fun? How do you enjoy yourself when you don't stay at a school for longer than a year? I mean, I can't imagine. I went to the same high school for all 4 years, and it went by like that.
Yeah.
I can't imagine if I was at a different one every season, so to speak. So I don't know, but I got to see a lot of growth.
I will give Matt Rule credit. Congratulations on making a bowl game for the first time since the Obama administration. You know, it's the last Power 5 team to do it. Way to go. I'm proud of you. But look at how far Nebraska's fallen. I mean, the days of Frank Soul. I mean, that's the problem we're going to see in the preseason rankings, and I guarantee you we're going to see it again next year, is we're going to see Michigan overranked. We're going to see Nebraska overranked. We're going to see Miami overranked. Why? Because they were good 30 years ago. Guess what? Tom Osborne is old.
Yeah.
Jimmy Johnson's hairspray is starting. I mean, I think he's having a hard time finding an Aquanet to keep his freaking hair in place. These coaches aren't coaching anymore. These programs aren't what they once were. Programs change. Things happen.
Yeah,
hell, if that's the case, Oklahoma would still be great.
Yeah, this program has taken a nosedive since Frank Solich left. They couldn't fire his ass fast enough, as he's winning 9, 10 games a year, 11 games a year, and they haven't done it since. I just, I don't know. I just don't see a whole lot of improvement there. They're paying a lot of money to Dylan Raiola. They're paying a lot of money to Matt Rule. And what are you getting for it?
Yeah.
Winning a meaningless bowl game by 5 points after giving up 3 block kicks.
I mean, that's the problem with the NIL, is these donors are going to come back and saying, what am I getting for my investment?
Correct. That's my whole point, is you're giving these people, that's what these teams are doing right now.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've noticed this, but there's a lot of transitioning happening right here where I'm at in Knoxville, Tennessee. I know I'm a Buckeye fan, but I live here in Knoxville. I can follow the Tennessee program pretty closely because I live here, and there's a lot of exodus right now. And a lot of the fans here are like, what's going on? Why are all these kids leaving? They're leaving because they're getting told to leave.
Yeah.
A lot of these, they have guys now that do these analytics, and they're like, oh, we're paying this much for this kid. We're paying this much for this kid. And what are we getting back for it? We're paying Squirrel White $1.5 million a year, and he has 30 catches. It's like, okay, well, we don't need him. So they go to these kids and they say, hey, we're pulling this money out. You are not going to make that. You're welcome to stay here and play on this team, but you're not going to make this money next year. Do what you got to do. The next day, they're like, I'm declaring in the portal. And it's like, well, some of these moves aren't made, by the kids. They're basically being told to get out. And that's what I think is happening in a lot of different places.
Well, and a lot of these mid-major schools literally have become minor league systems for the Power 5 or Power 4. I mean, that's the hard part about it, is the Cinderella stories are going to be harder and harder to come by, because, I mean, they're not going to see. I mean, look at how many of those programs where you saw those kids be there 4 or 5 years, where those MAC schools, you came in as a freshman, unless you were uber special. You redshirted your freshman year, and by the time you were a senior, you're 23, and let's see what happens. Like Northwestern used to, I mean, even as a Power 5 program, Northwestern used to do that. And look for many years, Northwestern was a doormat. And then they finally turned it on, realizing we don't have to win every year, but we can win every 3. And building up for that third year every single time.
Definitely true. And, I want to get into one more game here and discuss another SEC versus ACC team. But first, I want to take a few minutes and talk about the best sports book in the business, betus.com.
National Streaming Sports is brought to you in part by betus.com, designed for true fans. NFL odds, week 1 and futures, college football odds, including Heisman Trophy favorites and playoff odds, NBA odds of division winners and playoffs, Major League Baseball playoff and World Series odds, the National Hockey League Conference playoffs and Stanley Cup odds, and boxing wagers. Betting opportunities include versus the spreads and outright winners, also during the game. Use our link on our website, nessp.info, the Bet Us Opportunities webpage, for a 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits. Must be 21 years old, and remember, bet responsibly.
All right, betus.com. That is the voice of Mr. Mack. We all wish you the best over there at National Streaming Sports, our umbrella company, doing a great job keeping us going, and we hope he is feeling better and recovering after a rough end of the year. Getting back to football, we talk about the state of the program at USC, the state of the program at Nebraska. How about the state of the program at Vanderbilt? Going to the Birmingham Bowl, playing a Georgia Tech team who beat Florida State, who beat Miami, who had several big wins and is markedly improved. I think the coach at Georgia Tech deserves a lot of credit for what he's been able to do since taking over. And also we need to give credit to Clark Lee and the job that he's done at Vanderbilt. I mean, this is not your daddy's Vanderbilt unless you're 2 years old and your dad was there when James Franklin was there. But a pretty big time victory for them, finishing the season 7-6, beating Alabama at home, bringing in Diego Pavia. Diego now, I don't know if we saw this. We haven't even talked about this, but Diego sued the NCAA
and
changed the rules. Now junior college football doesn't even count. So now you can play 2 years of JUCO, go to a university, red shirt, then play 4 years. You could be in college for 7 years, James, and not be a doctor. Is basically how it is. Is basically how
we're dropping a Tommy Boy reference now. Hey, Cam McCormick just finished his 9th year at Miami. I mean, he's got to be a super doctor by now. I mean, come on.
He was crying on the field after the game. I'm like, what are you crying for? You got to go to college for a decade. You should be very happy. I mean, nobody goes to school for a decade except this kid. I mean, he was probably giving these people retirement advice while he was in the locker room and telling them stories of life, considering he was 35, playing tight end. But seriously, folks, let's give Vanderbilt a good hard handshake here, because 35 points. Diego Pavia threw for 3 touchdowns, ran for 2. I do like this kid, man. He's got something about him where he's a
gamer.
He's a gamer.
Freaking gamer.
He doesn't have a strong arm. He's not big. He's not fast. He's nothing athletically, but by God, he knows how to play football, and he loves doing it.
There's something about those kids. There's certain kids that have that just it factor, and I'm not talking athletically. They just know how to win games. Yes. And Diego Pavia, I mean, hell, the Alabama game alone, they should have beat Mizzou. Like, you go down the line, granted, they did take a crap in the Punch Bowl against Georgia State. Yeah, not Georgia Southern, not Valdosta State, Georgia State they lost to. But, this is Vanderbilt we're talking about. Freaking Vanderbilt, where every year everybody picks them to finish what? Dead last.
And they should.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at them on paper, they're not anywhere near anybody else in the SEC. Not even close.
No, talent-wise, money-wise, program-wise, it's not the same thing. And that is why, I want to give Clark Lee came in, and you talked about him being able to turn this thing around. And I kind of laughed at you. Yeah. Because I was like, come on, man, we're still talking about Vanderbilt. What is he really going to be able to do with that budget, with that program?
And I'll tell you what he's done. Exactly what you said he would do. He would make this team tougher. He would give this team a direction. He would, completely reverse the culture. Look at this. You got your quarterback out there laying a block on a D lineman. That's what he's done. He's brought in the kids that want to be there and, want to play football and know how to play football. And Georgia Tech's a good football team. I mean, I honestly think Georgia Tech is one of the better teams in the ACC. I think Haynes King is probably better than any quarterback Texas A&M has right now. And they let him walk. So I think that was a mistake. And I think he's proven it time and time again. But a huge win for Vanderbilt, finishing the season 7-6, scoring 35 points in their final game of the season. I think he has the program going in the right direction. My question is, does he stay there and does he keep this going, James?
Honestly, he graduated from there.
Right.
So
does he stay there?
I think he's in the short term. Yeah. But I think in the long term, someone's going to make a real run at him. Now, this isn't all Clark Lee.
Jerry Kill.
Jerry Kill came from New Mexico State, who, when he had the New Mexico State job, I know for a fact people were laughing at me when I'm saying he's going to make New Mexico State a winner. What did he do? He made New Mexico State a winner, and now he's at Vanderbilt. Not only that, Barton Simmons, his director of general manager, he acts like recruiting. Yeah. He does off-the-field stuff in their metrics. He used to be the director of recruiting for 24/7 Sports. This guy knows how to find freaking talent in the bushes. He knows how to beat the bushes and find those guys that are going to fit Clark Lee's system. I mean, if you're going to bring them, you're going to bring them as a package.
Right.
To wherever Clark Lee goes next. But what they've done, going 7-6 at Vanderbilt is like an 11-win year for most teams, or a 12-win year for most teams.
Oh, I agree. And I want to give you credit for calling that in the beginning, because this is a 180 from where Vanderbilt was before Lee got there.
Yeah.
Things were not going well. The athletic department was losing money. They were getting embarrassed on the football field left and right. And now, they played Texas tough. I mean, we don't even talk about this, but
they should have beat Mizzou.
They almost beat Texas. I mean, it was a 3-point game, and, they couldn't stop Texas on that last drive to get the ball back. But I felt like if they did, they might have had a chance to kick a field goal and tie it, or potentially go down and score, a touchdown and win. So that needs to be mentioned, and kudos to them for doing so. Before we get out of here, I do want to talk a little bit about some of these conferences in the postseason. And the one I want to talk about first is obviously the Atlantic Coast Conference. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's break this down for you. 1-9, kids. Do you know who the one victory was? Is Syracuse beating Washington State, who didn't they fire their coach?
No, he left to go to become the Wake Forest head coach.
Yes.
And then proceeded to lose 25 of their guys to the portal right after that.
Yeah, that was a good move. But that's what I'm saying. They didn't even have their coach, and that was the only game that they were able to win. Clemson, tried hard, but it was overmatched versus Texas. Penn State beat the snot out of SMU. UNLV dominated Cal. UConn beat North Carolina. Good luck, Coach Belichick. Nebraska beat BC, as we already talked about. Iowa State beat Miami, and East Carolina beat up NC State on the field and after the game. So, I really feel like this is just a pretty good indictment on what we're seeing here with the ACC. And I understand, wholeheartedly why Florida State and Clemson want to leave. This conference is just dog crap.
But if you're Florida State, you went 1-7 in this. What are you going to become? Like worse than Purdue? I mean,
yeah, I don't know who would want Florida State at this point. I'm talking about last year they wanted out. I don't really care what they want now. They don't deserve anything at this point. That was an embarrassment. And I'm still trying to figure out how it happened because I don't know how you go 13. What are they, 12-0? 12-0? 13-0? I thought they were 13-0. I don't know how you go.
Yeah.
I don't know how you go 13-0 to then what you see this year in one season. I guess going out and plucking DJU from the portal can help you do that. But you know, I don't want to put it all on him. This was a total team effort. But 1-9 in the postseason is just certainly saying something about the conference as a whole. I mean, the American Athletic Conference is 6-1, and one of their losses was Tulane. Losing to Florida, which Tulane's a good football team. So kudos to the American Athletic Conference, 6-1 in their bowl. In their bowl schedule, I want to give them credit for that, especially considering bringing in Army. I think was a good move for that conference. Army, finished the season ranked number 22. Beat Louisiana Tech 27-6 in the Independence Bowl. I know Marshall was supposed to be there, but all their players left, so they couldn't do that. But still, I think bringing in Army was a good move. The Big 12 is 4-2. Looked pretty good. Of course, they had to beat each other in the game last night, so somebody was going to lose. The Big 10 is 4-2 so far. Conference USA sucks. And the MAC is 4-2. Pac-12 only has 2 teams. The SEC is 4-3. What are you seeing from the conference, from a conference standpoint so far in the postseason? What stuck out to you besides the ACC being garbage?
I think the SEC is a lot worse than people give it credit.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, I look at the games on the way out for the ACC or the SEC. I think it's going to be rough. I mean, I think Ole Miss is going to beat Duke. Like anybody playing an ACC school right now,
yeah.
I think Minnesota is going to roll freaking Virginia Tech. I think Ole Miss is going to beat Duke. I think it's going to be a game, but Washington's going to beat Louisville.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the SEC, I mean, they're not what they once were. And no. I mean, this is just kind of hilarious. I mean, Michigan should not be playing in the freaking whatever the hell they call it, the ReliaQuest Bowl, which used to be the Outback Bowl. I mean, instead of playing for shrimp or blooming onions, are they playing for spark plugs now or what?
I don't know, but yeah, why is honestly, Michigan would have been 6-6 if Will Howard hadn't gotten knocked out or the guy missed 3 field goals. But they did win that game, so they finished 7-5. But still, they're playing a Alabama team that everyone said should have been in the playoff. That doesn't seem fair. And if Michigan wins that one, we're really going to make fun of the SEC on this show. But anyway, good talking football today. We got more bowl games going on. It was fun watching Dion lose last night. He just looked like he had no idea what to do in the second half. I think I thought they would come back in the second half and at least make it a game. And
I did too.
I thought they would start throwing the football around a little bit, but they just had no chance to sit back in the pocket because he had no time, and it just never happened. But it was kind of fun watching Dion look so puzzled, and I enjoyed it. So kudos to the BYU Cougs. Thanks for that. And we'll talk some more football again real soon. And we've got the playoff games coming up next week, so we'll be right here to break them all down, okay?
You got it.
Keep your chins up, and come back and see us again. Thanks for watching. Keep your chin up.
See ya.